Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I almost lost my mind and my voice. Oh my god! When we got the announcement of a brand new Xenoblade game, Xenoblade Genesis, officially confirmed for the Nintendo Switch 2, exclusive and out in 2027. And if Monolith Soft couldn't get any more goated at this point, they said, oh, okay, new Xenoblade. Yeah, we also have Xenoblade Chronicles 1, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3, all in 4K 60 frames per second docked and 1080p 60 frames per second portable mode, in addition to having new content added in to each game with racing, new combat options for Xenoblade 2, and more that just make it better, more quality of life options, being able to get around the world faster. And man, that just made all of these games, when it comes to Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3, even better than, of course, that big, huge, new Xenoblade game that I have to talk about because there's so many different things that we need to get into. So this is going to be a super Xenoblade video that we need to discuss, because Xenoblade Genesis, to me, is the beginning of Monolith Soft finally getting something going. Once again, they have the ambition, they have the gameplay knowledge, they have the story and all that type of stuff, but man, the Switch 2 is the system that can really realize everything all cohesively without the issues that the Nintendo Switch 1 or the Wii U or the Wii or any other system they've worked on has had. I think that this is going to be incredible, and we need to discuss what's going on with Xenoblade Genesis, because there is a lot to talk about with this game and what it's going to do, and even some concerns from fans with art style, style of game, and more. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers, or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Let's get into the official announcement. Nintendo has announced Xenoblade Genesis, a new entry in the Xenoblade series. For Switch 2, it will launch in 2027. Quote, a new beginning for the Xenoblade series is coming to Nintendo Switch 2 in 2027, Nintendo said in the announcement. Further information will be shared at a later date. And of course, you guys are checking out this brand new trailer. We're going to talk about Xenoblade Genesis first, then we'll get into Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3. Then I'll give you guys the breakdown for those who need it, what Xenoblade games you should play when it comes to the order and all of that, and how X fits into all of this. So let's just first start off here. Once again, Xenoblade Genesis. Obviously, Genesis means the very beginning or the very start of something. So the fact that they dropped the Chronicles from the title is actually really important, because if you've played Xenoblade Chronicles, I guess you can say Chronicle is a chapter or an organization of things or a saga of specific events, and they dropped that out of the name because the Chronicles is finished. If you've played Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade 3, and X, you know what I'm talking about when it comes to the Chronicles of things and what happened with Kloss from the original game. So this game dropped that. Yes, there might be some ties to things, but when you say Genesis, that definitely means the very beginning or beforehand, or the beginning of something completely new. So this could be way before things happened, setting everything up millions or thousands of years before we even knew what was going on in Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and the other games, or it could be completely after. And if you've beat Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed, and if you've beat Xenoblade Chronicles X, you know exactly what I'm talking about, or even Xenosaga, you know exactly what I'm talking about with those endings. So I do think that Xenoblade Genesis does represent for them a new beginning in everything that they're going to do going forward with gameplay, graphics, and content. And speaking of the graphics in the game, we've got to talk about this. This is just the most interesting thing, because what they showed off here, at least for a first look, it's not completely polished. It's going to get better. It's an early first look at the game, but it's looking pretty good. It's looking like it's in pretty good shape. I remember the original reveal of Xenoblade 1 or Monado Beginning of the New World. That looked really rough. Obviously, it's the Nintendo Wii, so you can't do too much with that system, but looked really rough and got better as time goes along. Same thing goes for Xenoblade X on the Wii U. Looked a bit rough when they first showed it, but it got better. Same thing with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, although Xenoblade 2 probably launched way too early, but the change and the looks and the graphics and everything got better as time went along and as we got closer to launch for each of their major games. Xenoblade 3 was probably the only game that didn't, but that's because they actually had a ton of time to get Xenoblade done, and that game had been finished, so they were able to get everything kind of going. And of course, they had been already working when it comes to HD games. All their experience kind of helped them reusing assets, all that good stuff. So for them, I don't think Xenoblade 3 was too much of an issue. But I think that Xenoblade Genesis, when it just comes like to the look of the world and everything, so far, so good. Now, some people are concerned when it comes to the graphical style of the world compared to previous Xenoblade games, but that doesn't really concern me at all, as Monolith Soft has changed art styles or changed direction multiple times and it ended up working out. You go from Xenoblade Chronicles 1 on the Wii to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, definitely a big change there originally. Then they updated Xenoblade Chronicles 1 to look more in line with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And then if you look at Xenoblade Chronicles 1 to even Xenoblade Chronicles X, and that style changed with what they're doing with the graphics and certain gameplay aspects. So to me, when it comes to a graphical style, you're looking at the character models or the characters themselves, that looks Xeno. That looks Xeno enough. Now the world, some people are saying it looks kind of more like a Tales of Arise or Final Fantasy or something like that. And I think that that's why it's called Xenoblade Genesis. It is a new beginning. It's not the same as Xenoblade X or Xenoblade 3 or Xenoblade 2 or Xenoblade 1. It's something very different. And I think that's going to keep the series fresh, in my opinion. And yes, I have the utmost trust when it comes to Monolith Soft and them doing things, because this world is full of anima, right? If you look at the trailer, anima, it's the like ether essentially of the world, and it powers what everyone does. Now, some people have these gems that they can use when it comes to harnessing this power. The best and the biggest warriors have this, but some don't need to have that. So this world and what they're doing with anima, it's going to tie into the art style, it's going to tie into the direction, it's going to flow with what they're doing here. So I have confidence that it will be good. Now, if it's not good by the time that the game comes out, then I'll say that, but it's Monolith Soft here. I mean, I don't think that they really missed. I know some of you guys might not like certain games or like certain games more than others, but Monolith Soft, generally speaking here, does not miss when it comes to Xenoblade. Every single Xenoblade major game, well over 80 Metacritic, and one of them with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 at least nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards, the most like super casualized show, right? You got a lot of non-hardcore JRPG players that are picking, and that one actually was good enough, reviewed well enough to get into that spot and be included in the orchestra, which was pretty cool, even though it should have won the music or soundtrack of the year. But hey, that's a whole nother thing that we can talk about. Let's get back to Xenoblade Genesis. So I'm super excited for this. They didn't show combat because I do think that combat is going to get a massive overhaul. There is going to be a number of changes, just like we've seen before in previous Xenoblade games. Xenoblade X and Xenoblade 1 had some similarities one after the other, but definitely a big change when it comes to certain combat aspects of this game. You look at Xenoblade Chronicles X to even Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or Xenoblade Chronicles 3, definitely big changes from each one, but I think this will sign the biggest change outside of Xenoblade 1 to Xenoblade X Mechs or something. I think that the combat in this game is going to be completely redesigned to be more, I would say, clean on the presentation. And I think that's one criticism that I feel is valid when it comes to Xenoblade. I mean, there's multiple criticisms that I think that are valid, but I think that one of the things when it comes to playing the game, especially for more casual JRPG fans or mid-tier JRPG fans, is that the UI or the interface is clustered, it is crowded, and it makes things difficult for people just trying to get into it. So what do you do? How do you fix that to where you can make a clean interface in addition to making a game in depth? Well, I think that after having Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade 3, and Xenoblade X, Monolith Soft will figure something out. They'll figure it out to where they can make a clean interface that looks good, that's not crowded, and is still fun to play with a lot of depth. So I think that's got to be their number one priority, because yes, we hardcore JRPG fans, we can all look at Xenoblade 3 and see all the crazy lines and decipher everything, but for a lot of casual consumers out there, and even just, I would say, middle of the line JRPG fans, it might be a bit much. So cleaning up that interface and still having the depth of combat, I think is going to be vital for Xenoblade Genesis and getting people in, because by titling it Xenoblade Genesis, Monolith Soft and Nintendo want new people to join in. I think that as you go on in a series, as you keep on getting the numbers higher and higher, and there's the similar characters and connections to story, it gets harder and harder for people to jump in because they feel that they need to go back and play hundreds of hours of RPGs in order to get the most out of the most current game. And I think that's why you're seeing some of the fall off between, like, let's say Final Fantasy VII Remake and then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and then maybe now to Final Fantasy VII Revelation, where it's really going to only be the hardest core of people who love that story with FF7. But the thing about this is that since it's Genesis, you can start from the beginning. You can say this is a clean break. It doesn't even have Chronicles in the title. It's just Xenoblade Genesis. And yes, I know in Japan it's always just been called Xenoblade and then whatever. But now at this point, with that name Genesis, that subtitle, it's a clear and obvious decision on where they're going with this game. So that's the exciting part about it. We got to wait and see for gameplay, but I think it's going to be awesome. And with the power of the Nintendo Switch 2, this is the easiest and best when it comes to a system. When it comes to just a pure system developing on, I think the Nintendo Switch 2 gives Monolith Soft every single resource that they need for their time, budget, and dev team size to get things done and get things done efficiently, which they have. I think they started working on Xenoblade Genesis back in 2022, 2023, and it's coming out in 2027. So we're looking at about a 4 to 5 year type development cycle for this game, which is plenty of time for Monolith Soft to cook and cook to the highest degree. We're talking Bobby Flay here when it comes down to it. So I'm very excited to see what they do. Now let's get into some Xenoblade Chronicles series when it comes to the Switch 2 editions. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3, all of them Nintendo Switch 2 editions. Here's the official announcement. Publisher Nintendo and developer Monolith Soft have released Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Nintendo Switch 2 edition via the eShop for $69.99. Users who own the Switch version can purchase an upgrade pack for $9.99. A physical edition will launch on July 30th for $69.99. So here's the breakdown of when we're going to get the other games and the physical versus digital. We talked about Xenoblade Chronicles, the first game, digital June 9th, 2026, physical July 30th, 2026, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Switch 2 edition, digital July 30th, 2026, physical October 1st, 2026, and then Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Nintendo Switch 2 edition, digital December 3rd, physical December 3rd. So it's going to be physical and digital, same days there for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and this is awesome. I love this that they're releasing it staggered. That gives people plenty of time in between to kind of get in and play. And the coolest thing about this when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3 all getting Switch 2 editions, they have enhancements. There's other things added in to make it better. When it comes to the features, 4K resolution in TV mode, Full HD in handheld mode, 60 frames per second. You can now traverse the Bionis and Mechonis, two titans frozen in battle at high speed on the Ether Jet. Get additional equipment made specifically for riding the Ether Jet. The Xenoblade Chronicles feature connected story has also been enhanced with visual improvements and the Ether Jet. Plus, fully voiced heart-to-heart conversations for the first time. When it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, once again, 4K 60 TV mode, 1080p 60 frames per second handheld mode. Now at this point though, with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you can discover a new rare blade, complete with a quest for you to take on, directly control the blades you send on mercenary missions in a new action battle mode, and you can unlock new equipment designs for Pyra and Mithra, and that is really cool. The whole blade stuff and then like new missions that you go, mercenary missions, that's awesome, because before in the first game or originally, you send them on missions, but you don't actually play those. They just go do them, then come back, and then you get rewards for them. But now you can actually go do some of those mercenary missions in an exclusive way. So I do like that. And then in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, 4K 60, 1080p 60, and then you can recruit a new hero complete with a quest for you to take on, put your strength to test in defensive battles against waves of enemies, and of course the fully voiced voice events. So definitely a good announcement when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3 Switch 2 editions. A lot of updates, but the biggest thing here is the fact that the game runs at good frame rate and resolution. Now, I tested out Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition on the Switch 2, and it is very nice. It is very clean. It moves smoothly. It's so much better than playing it Switch 2 boost mode, because the 60 FPS and the extra clarity when it comes to what they've done there on TV and dock mode is very nice. So definitely nice upgrades across the board here. I do suggest just picking up a loose copy of the game if you don't want to spend the full 70 for the game. You can pick up loose copies for cheaper than just upgrade them when it comes to that. But I do think, once again, with this, you can play it in this order. So if you're wondering, okay, where should I jump in? You can play it in this order: Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or Definitive Edition, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, then Xenoblade Chronicles 3, then Xenoblade Chronicles X. I think if you play it in that order, it should be fine. Now, yes, I know I've said before you can play it in the actual order that it released, but now after playing Xenoblade Chronicles X fully 100% and beating the extra epilogue chapter, I think you can play that last and it will probably hit a little bit more. So yeah, Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade 3, then Xenoblade X, you play it in that order, you should be good. And I think that staggering the releases is awesome, and getting these incredible experiences out there is really, really cool, because I do think that Xenoblade Genesis is going to be a game of the year quality type of game in 2027, and it's going to be a ton of fun to play. So there's no excuse done at this point. No more, 360p handheld mode and 30 frames per second with dips or memory leaks all over the place in Xenoblade 2. You got much better quality, much better frame rate, and awesome games with new content all added in. So what do you guys think when it comes to everything here with Xenoblade Genesis, in addition to Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3, all of the updates here on the Nintendo Switch 2? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Like this video talking about The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and how it's not going to be quite a one-to-one remake, but more of a reimagining of the incredible Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time from the Nintendo 64.